Welcome to our first Go Vote Omaha show in the studio. Thanks to COVID vaccine, social distancing, and wearing masks, we now have the opportunity to be back at KPAO, and we are ecstatic to be back. This afternoon or this evening, we have our co-president that will be speaking on lots of things that have happened over the last 15 months. Go Vote Omaha is a production of the League of Women Voters of Greater Omaha. My name is Terry Crawford and I am your host for this evening. We will be talking to our co-president, as stated, Krista Fox. We will be talking about some of the things that have happened over the last 15 months. And the League of Women Voters also, just as a reminder, is a nonpartisan organization. We do not support candidates and we do not support parties. We do, however, empower individuals, and it is also our policy to make sure that voters are informed as to what the issues are. Our purpose is to empower voters and to defend democracy. And Go Vote Omaha primarily focuses on policy issues, and as a result of our discussions, it is our hope that the viewers are informed and empowered enough to make sure that they go to the polls and vote in each election cycle. Today, again, I am joined by the League of Women Voters Greater Omaha co-president, Krista Fox. Today, we'll be talking about how the League has weathered the storm in the pandemic, the 2020 national election, and then also the recent Omaha City elections. And then we'll also talk about what we do at the League and how the viewers or others who are interested may get involved in the League. So thank you so much and welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here again in studio.
Yes, absolutely. So we'll just go ahead and get started with our questions, okay? So like many other organizations, the League had to kind of pivot and we had to reinvent ourselves during this pandemic. Can you talk about how some of that took place and how we handled that as the League over the last 15 months, helping to educate the voters, some of the other things that happened in the community, and also while we were educating the voters, what we did to make sure that they were participating and also remaining safe while doing it?
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. So it was an unprecedented year for the whole world, but the League did a great job. Our board is ready and willing to be creative and try new things, and we're dedicated to ensuring that we continue to have an impact on voter registration and voter education. And so we quickly, once we determined that the pandemic was real and we were all going to be stuck in our homes for longer than expected, we really started to be creative and think about how we could pivot to virtual offerings, but also when and where to pick when we needed to be there with the public. And so the impact that the League has always been really great and big, and this year has been no exception and no change to that. Our GOTV volunteers have done amazing work in a time when it was very uncertain and scary, but they stay committed to our mission. And so I want to share some of those numbers with you, so you'll see me looking down, but I want to share that we continue to have voter contact. We continue to really talk to people and get them to be members of the civic process. And so we had 181,000 contacts, which is just an outstanding number. And we had 290 volunteers who volunteered for 2,500 hours. And in a time of pandemic, that is just amazing. And it speaks to the mission of the League of Women Voters and how committed we are and people are to ensuring that voting is a right that is protected here in Nebraska. We were able to register 1,700 people at 34 different sites, and that includes working through our high schools and through new citizen ceremonies, as well as colleges and universities. And so most of that was outdoors to keep us safe, and making sure that our volunteers understood that we were going to comply quickly and quickly with the mask mandates and things of that nature. So we wanted to stay safe. We wanted people we were talking to feel safe and feel like we cared about them as well as our mission. And so we continued to do that work. We also worked through phone banking and distributing flyers. Our team touched about I'm going to say with 72 partners, touched about 2,000 people through phones and about 4,000 people through text. And that was a new thing for us as well. As we tried to find new ways to reach our voters, we pivoted from face-to-face door knocking and event signups to texting and phone banking, and our team did really good with that, and I was super impressed because it was a quick shift and a quick pivot, and they did a really good job with that. And so I'm glad you asked about the numbers, because the impact that the league has here in Omaha cannot be undercounted, and I want to be sure that we give value to the work that our volunteers did, because it was amazing and unprecedented.
That is phenomenal work.
It was.
In light of a pandemic, and the work continues through the league. Let's talk about the recent city elections and how some of the contact with candidates and also volunteers were handled during a time where a lot of in-person contact was not allowed, if you will.
Absolutely. And again, our team was ready to pivot from being in studio, inviting guests here to do our forums and to really talk face to face on how that, what their election would look like. And instead we moved to Zoom, and our team was like, this will work, and they did it. And it was really, really good. And the candidates responded beautifully, and we really appreciated their support and their participation, because that information that we're able to provide to our citizens, to our fellow citizens and potential voters is invaluable. And it really gives us a look into what our government can look like when we're able to talk to candidates and really put to questions that we think are fundamental to the roles they're running for, I guess is what I want to say. And we also did a really good job with our voters guide, which is, again, we had to pivot there. Our team was like, so libraries are closed, how do we get it to people? And they did a really good job brainstorming other avenues, other organizations that we could partner with. We continue to do the work with the candidates to get them to answer questions that we think are very valuable to how the city wants to develop and the values that Omahans have and want to cultivate in our elected officials. And so we think we did a great job really working with candidates to keep us safe, keep them safe, but also keep our democracy moving. And so I think that was really, again, I can gush about my team all the time because they do great work and they are ready to move and pivot.
Okay, awesome. The league also had its national convention virtually, just like some other organizations. Yeah. You and I are both in some other organizations that also did virtual conventions, conferences, and those types of things. So can you talk some about that, and that diversity and racial equity was also a major issue that was discussed at the national convention, and what are some of the things that the local league is also doing on those particular issues?
Absolutely, yes. Virtual convention was a great time. They did a very good job with that. And so one of the things that the league is really focused on is moving with the times. They are a progressive organization. And when I say progressive, I just mean they are focused on really meeting the needs of their membership. And as the membership has changed and evolved, they want to meet our needs, and they want to find ways that they can communicate with us and really hear our voices. And I think they did a great job in the virtual realm in our national convention. Specifically on diversity and inclusion, for a lot of organizations, it's kind of a newer topic, but the league has really been focusing on this for a while. They want to be sure that the people who look at the league and are served by the league and are members of the league understand that diversity and inclusion is a core value, I guess, of the league. And we believe that with more voices in our democracy, the league firmly believes that the more voices in our democracy will make our democracy better. It doesn't matter exactly where you're coming from. We believe in the nonpartisan view of that, and we just want more voices, and that's our goal the whole time. Is just how many people can we get to voice their opinion, and the league does a really good job of ensuring that all voices are being heard, both within the league, but also protecting those voices outside of the league and in our communities. And so I'm super impressed with what the Nationals has given us as tools to bring down to the local league as well. And so what we're focusing on is diversifying our membership and our leadership. And we want to be sure that the people we're talking to know that we value their voices as well, and that we want them to be part of our organization, and we want them to be part of our electorate. I will talk to you about voting all day if you want, and no one wants that, but that's fine. But we want those voices to be part of our community, and the best way that we think that can happen is through voting and voter education. And so, we're using those tools that the National League has given us here in Omaha to really focus our get out the vote efforts, our voter education efforts, the organizations that we partner with, really just always keeping it in the forefront of our mind that we are a community that comes from all different walks of life.
Okay. Now, I have lots of conversations in the community, and I know you do as well, with other organizations and just individuals in general. A lot of people think that the League of Women Voters is a voting rights organization, but we engage in lots of other issues, particularly in this community and just across the country. So can you talk a little bit about what that looks like for the viewers and explain to the viewer how that works for us as an organization?
Absolutely. Yes, I'm glad you brought that up because, yes, while voting rights and voting protection is one of our biggest arms of the work we do, policy impact is also very important. So the League takes again, nonpartisan view of issues that affect our democracy and affect how people can interact with our democracy. And they do a study, which is really important to make sure that we stay focused on nonpartisan issues. So we like to study issues and determine from all the facts that we can gather what is the best policy that will continue to uplift our democracy and keep people involved in our democracy. And so we have positions across all kinds of issues. Currently, we're really working on keeping redistricting transparent. We prefer an independent council, but we're not going to get that here in Nebraska. So we are focused again on how do we get people involved in the redistricting process so that it can be transparent and again, fair in a way that will keep our democracy safe. We talk about issues about environmental justice. We have super passionate people about environmental justice, people who want to talk to us about mental health. We do this work across all fields, and we have official positions that are presented to us from our national organization, and we act within those. So I want to stress that the work that we do in advocacy comes from our national platform and things that are more focused here in Omaha as well, but that it all comes from a nonpartisan view after we study the issue. And I think that sets us apart in that we have done the work to really come to the conclusion that this is the best option for our democracy. And so, I think that really is a huge part of what we do. And when we have members who want to be involved in that, we ask them to call their senators, we ask them to testify at the legislature, because it's important that our voices are heard even after our vote is cast.
Can you also talk some about that national directive and what that looks like? You did mention that if there's been a policy or a position from the national office, that there's a directive to the locals. And what if there's not a position, and what does that look like as far as the study and those types of things?
Absolutely, yes. So our national officers and leagues across the country take up an issue, and they want to know, what does this mean for their league and then also the national league? And so they do a study which requires that we read research, we talk to local experts, national experts to get their opinion across the spectrum. We talk to our own membership, we review other laws and things that are similar to what we're studying, and we determine what that impact is having on democracy. And then that is presented at the national level, and the leagues vote to say, we agree with this, and we think it does impact our democracy, and therefore we do want to take action on that. And so, again, that is called the Impact on Issues, and you can find that on our website, both our national and our local websites. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We would love to hear from you. But again, the issues that we talk about are across the spectrum. What was the other part of your question?
Just exactly how those studies take place, and then the directives from the results of a study.
Yes, and so once a study has been completed, either locally or nationally. It is disseminated to all the leagues for review, questions, concerns, opinions are listened to, and it's reformulated till we get to a place where we can all vote on it and say yes or no. And then once a study or a position has been implemented, we are all sort of activated to work on that by calling your senators, writing letters, and just, being involved. And it also helps because there are things that the study will reveal for us. So sometimes we have opinions about something and you just kind of come to that opinion. But the study has several times has shown me, like, the facts of this is a little bit different, and here's how we got there. And I think that's really what's really sets the league apart, in that we are going to use the facts to come to the opinion that we have. So,
okay,
I love it, in case you were wondering.
Thank you so much for that information. What opportunities exist within the league for those that are interested in participating either in Omaha or throughout Nebraska? What particular opportunities would be available?
Oh my goodness, yes. So this is another topic that I can talk on, is recruitment. We want you to join us. So the League of Women Voters Greater Omaha specifically has multiple levels of involvement depending on what you want to do. So most people come to the league because they want to help register voters, and we will always need that help. And our directors for the Get Out the Vote, they are always looking for opportunities to support other organizations in voter registration, and also do our own voter registration. And so we're always ready for those kind of volunteers. But we also do a lot of other aspects of voter education that we're looking for volunteers for. If we need people to help organize this show, for example, but we also want people to help us find new and interesting topics for our Dine and Discuss or our Listen and Learns. We want to have people who want to join our Observer Corps, which is an aspect of the league where we watch government meetings and then report back, because we believe that the best way for government to act is with transparency, and the best way for there to be transparency is for people to be there. And so we want you to help us monitor monitor our government organizations and what they're doing, and report it back so people know. What else are there? Membership, we have a lot of membership activities where we want to talk about what the league is doing and how it's affecting the community. We want to get into new areas for community engagement, and we want everyone to be involved in that. And so you can join and we would love to have you join on our website again, lwvgo.org/join. And it's enlightening. We have book clubs. We'll start our documentary club again once the world opens again. We'll be able to do that, and our book club is ongoing, and it's really, really fun. We host mixers so that you can get to know people and talk with them and learn about their walks of life, because as much as we love to do this work, we're also friends, and we also we want to be a community as well. And so we hope that you'll join us, because it's tons of fun, and the work we do is really, really impressive, and you can be a part of that. I know a lot of the people who volunteer have been members of this organization longer than I've been alive because of that aspect. And so I'm excited that one day I'll be able to say that to someone, that I've been a member of the league longer than they've been alive. And I hope you'll join us in that as well.
Absolutely. Can you talk some about reaching young people? You mentioned in one of your answers about going into the schools and registering those that are just coming of age and are able to vote for the first time. Can you talk a little bit about that process?
Yes, and so I'm sure we've all heard the statistics about young voters. It's a hard demographic to reach, and so we're very impressed again with our GOTV team. Our Get Out the Vote team has partnered with the schools to really focus on ensuring that people, these young students who are turning 18 and are 18, get registered. And then we follow up because we want them to understand that that's just the first step. Then we need you to get to the polls, and we're going to help you do that, and we're going to help you feel confident when you're going into the poll to vote through our voters guide and other forms of voters education. And so one of the things we're really working on with our youth, though, is Voting for them doesn't feel the same as voting for other generations. It's just one aspect of civic engagement. So how can we engage them other ways too? How can we get young students to see that their voices are valuable and needed and can really change how our society interacts? And so we're working on ways for outreach there. Our league administrator, Candid Villard, that's something that's close to her heart as well. So I know that eventually we'll really get there and be able to interact with students in a way that is deep and meaningful. And the work we're doing now is a really good start for that.
Okay, and I know we haven't had the big reveal yet for what that civic engagement piece talks about, what that looks like, but can you talk a little bit about what that looks like and how that will engage these young voters to kind of bring them into the fold in a more active way?
For sure, yes. So one of the things we're doing is we want to hear their voices in separate from adult voices, and not that they're not adults, but separate from older voices. We want them to have a safe place to
more seasoned voices.
There we go.
Thank you.
There we go. I'm from those who have been part of this already, and so we're looking at ways that we can A, bring them into the membership, and B, give them a platform. So that they can talk to each other, form their ideas in a safe place that also provides them with information, provides them with some facts and statistics that can inform their decisions. And so that's something that I'm working on, and I know the rest of our membership is working on too, because they're our future, and I feel very cliche for saying the children are our future, but right. It is a fact. And so we really want to bring them into the fold, and you know, once you get kids voting, it becomes a habit, and we want to help them form that habit so that they always have their voices heard.
Okay. The League of Women Voters motto is empowering voters and defending democracy. So much has happened over the last 15 months. We saw what we believe has been justice for George Floyd, and a result of a lot of those conversations, we had the Justice for George Floyd, Justice and Policing Act.
Yes.
We also saw here locally that LB 451, the Crown Act legislation, passed so that we are more aware of natural hair discrimination in Nebraska. So talk some about what empowering voters and defending democracy means in the new world that we are now finding ourselves in.
Yes, and so to me what this means is that voters and citizens have more at stake and need to make their voices heard and are doing that work. And so I think that is really what we're seeing is people are like, I have a voice and I have a way of making sure my voice is heard, and interacting with our elected officials and our government in a way that I think you know, before pandemic life, we didn't feel like we had time for, or just it wasn't on our radar. But now we're like, these people are just as accessible and down to earth as we are, and therefore I feel comfortable talking to them, and I feel like we can work together towards the democracy we want. And I think it's important that we recognize that, especially here in Nebraska, the people are the second house. We have influence and we have a responsibility to ensure that our elected officials know how we feel, and even if things aren't going the way we personally want, our involvement is important, and our voices need to be heard and on record, I guess, is the other part. Is we want to be sure that what I feel and what I think and what I value is on the table, and as much as it might not go the way we like it, it's still important that it was said. And I think that's part of what we're seeing with the Crown Act is that people got involved. People who had never ever done this work before were like, this is real and it impacts me, and I want to say how I feel about that. And because they did, we were able to see that go all the way through the House. And I think that's, I don't know, that is inspiring, and I think that's the work that we're trying to do as the League, is really get people to see that the work they do, the phone call they make, is as much as it feels alone and lonely maybe, because it's just me by myself on the phone, it's real, it's impactful, and it makes a difference. We do want you to also make your friends call, but but your call matters, and we think that's important, and your voice matters. Your experience is different than anyone else's, and it's important that we get to hear what that sounds like. And so, yeah, I think that is what we're seeing when we see these bills go through is it's just the work of the people actually coming to fruition, and it's not always going to go that way, but it's important that we connect those things, the work you're doing with success.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
Well, thank you so much. And I am so glad we had an opportunity to have this conversation to let everyone know that even in a pandemic, the League of Women Voters is still doing the work in communities. So thank you so much for joining us this evening. Co-President of the League of Women Voters of Greater Omaha, Crystal Fox. Appreciate your time this evening. My name is Terry Crawford, and I want to remind our viewers that this was the opportunity for you to inform yourself of all of the issues that continue to be raised in communities tonight and all other nights. And our purpose for doing this is to have these discussions to make sure that you are informed and to make sure that you go vote Omaha in each election cycle. Thank you so much for joining us.